easiest in the world. You just say, oh no, I just sit there all in the world.
Welcome to Hot Marriage Cool Parents. I'm your host, Jamie Otis Hehner.
And I am Doug. And we just put our kids to bed.
Yeah, so we are recording this and it's 10 o'clock at night. But that's what happens when you have kids and no family in town.
This feels like we like our old time.
I know, record when you can. But we are so excited because we put out on Instagram that this week we wanted to do a Q&A with those of you listening. And so we put out on Hot Marriage Cool Parents page, just, send in your questions, because the whole point of the podcast is that we really truly want to get to just serve you more and connect with you more. And so but before it takes us to the end of the episode, we're going to give a 5-star shout out, because every single one of you, as a matter of fact, someone who was listening on Spotify DM'd me today and said, where do I leave the 5-star review on Spotify? And I have to tell you, I don't even really know, because I always listen on Apple's podcasts. So
yeah, just because we have Macs, they have the podcast app here.
Yeah, so I'm not sure where you leave the 5-star review on Spotify. So if you know, let me know. But
we can relay that message.
Yeah, last week's episode was obviously it was literally straight from the heart. Like, it was not really planned necessarily, but it all just kind of flowed out. And that's the coolest thing about podcasting for us, is that
that was a powerful episode.
Yeah, it really was. It was very vulnerable and raw. And we've
had a few of those.
Yeah. And that's the thing about this podcast, is that I feel like it's some of the times that we talk best are when we're A, podcasting, or B, driving.
Well, there's been a couple times now where it's just like, oh, how did your fertility appointment go? Oh, save it for the podcast.
What?
That's what happened.
When? Oh, yeah. Well, we never even talked about it on the podcast, though.
No, I know, but I'm saying a lot of the conversations that we'll bring up, we'll say, save it for the podcast. So we won't talk about it. Like my last appointment with the doctor, you were like, nope, save it for the podcast. We'll talk about it then.
Yeah, which honestly, I really wish, but then we never talked about it. So that was kind of silly of us.
I know. Well, we can talk about it now.
Well, because I feel like I was so confused there for a second. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it made me feel weird.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you feel weird. I was just like, what is he talking about? Save it for the podcast. Because I feel like I've only said that once, but it's true that we just have a better, we actually have uninterrupted conversations when we're podcasting. And if you have kids, then you know that that's never, that's just never happening otherwise. Yeah. And so anyways, speaking of that,
should we get to our 5-star review?
Yeah, we were going to get to our, whoa, I'm way off. I wasn't expecting you.
Are you okay? Did you take something?
No, jeez Louise. No.
Jamie had wine earlier. That's what it is.
I haven't had wine in so long because we're trying to get pregnant. And so I haven't had a drop of alcohol. And then today at the pool, I was at the pool with the neighborhood girls, and
that was a fun time.
Yeah. And this one brought a bottle of wine, and no one seemed, and she brought it to share. And so I was like, well, I'll have some. I just didn't want her she's new, and I didn't want her to feel left out. And I was like, she's twist my arm. I guess I'll have one glass of wine with you. But I really haven't had any since then. And I was saying to Doug, it feels weird drinking it now, when you have gone so long without having it. But anyways, yes, let's get to our 5-star review.
Yeah. All right. So this one comes from Loretta 1, who says, praise God. Preach it, girl. I loved your message about your relationship with God. You are so right. Don't let people discourage you. Just God talk to you through the Holy Spirit. That sweet, soft voice that talks to us is God. You are so blessed that you realize that at a young age. Continue going to church as a family. Teach your children young. You will also grow closer as a family. You have a big heart. I wish I lived close so I can be your friend. You are such a great example of God's love. Doug, you hang in there, and God will continue to give you strength through your journey. I see God working through you. And we got praying hands emoji. Thank you both for your hard work. Such a great example. Loretta.
Oh, thanks, Loretta. Honestly,
you.
don't really like talking about God or religion or politics or anything like that that's like so sharply one way or the other, because I genuinely believe, like, I genuinely love everyone, whether they agree with my philosophy on life or not. And we're all just trying to figure out like the best that we can do. But I do have to say that the 2 times that I was lowest, like the lowest points in my life, the one thing that pulled me through was truly God. Like, I mean, it was just my faith. And so I feel like there's a lot to be said for that. I mean, just for me personally, knowing that,
I don't feel like I've ever had a close relationship with God. I think I've always questioned it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still not very religious, but we would go as a family when I was a kid. We would go Sundays. We were Presbyterian, so we go to the Presbyterian church, and we used to always go on Christmas Eve. That was a big thing. But yeah, I don't know. I was never really connected to God or religion. But we have been going a lot here, and I do like the church that we're going to. You know what? It is nice to have our kids sit around the table and hold hands, and when we're getting ready to eat, and say, tell us what you're thankful for, even if they say but and
tushy
and
butt
other things, but
every
still
single
they're
night
used to it.
Every single night when we pray before dinner, they'll say, Hendrix will say, okay, now church, we all pray. We all take our turns to thank God for whatever we're thankful for. And Hendrix will like have his eyes open and he'll look at Henley and he'll be like, say tushy butt. And, and I'm like, what? And so then Henley would say, no, Hendrix, God, I'm thankful for And then when it's Hendrix's turn, Hendrix will say, I actually have a audio. We have to include it. We're going to send this over to our editor. He's an amazing editor, Matt. Shout out to Matt, our editor. We have this little audio. I want to play it right now because it's literally from tonight when we were praying. I have a video and they're saying, I'm thankful for tushy butt. I'm thankful for belly aches. I'm thankful for, like, they're just, and then just arguing over what they're thankful for. We're going to play it right now.
I pray for this food to bless our body. And I pray that both Henley and Hendrix will pray next. Go ahead, Hendrix.
Again.
It's your turn.
One more time.
Again.
No, one more.
I for belly itches.
No, we don't say we're thankful for belly aches.
You for the roof and makeup. And lights. And then from the movie and there's the God.
These silly kids, they are so funny. But honestly, I really do like that we pray every single night before dinner, and that before bed, I try to make sure that we say what we're thankful for. And Henley will just say, I'm so tired, I don't want to. But I'm like, Henley, it's really important that we thank God for the good things that we have in our lives, because then we get more good things. And then she's like, okay, well, I'm thankful for sleep. Good night. Like, good. Thank you, God. Oh
my God.
And, but I don't know. I'm hoping that it's teaching them the value of gratitude and
also to remember what we did through the day. Because we could have the most fun day ever, and then if we come home and we don't put on something, or we say no to playing with them for some reason, the whole day is boring, and
or
we
if
didn't do anything.
Yeah, or if we say no tablet or no games, then they're like, oh, this is boring. This is the worst day ever. And we're like, really? Because we actually just did all these fun things and you've already forgotten about that? Okay, any other parent really? I feel like we cannot be the only ones there. No. But moving on to the questions, because this week we have questions from you who are listening, and like I said earlier, we just put it out on Instagram, and we grabbed some from you. And so one question is from Mrs. Hanson 0818, and she says, are you in contact with your aunt from your dad's side who you just met? And yes, I am. I have 2 aunts, actually. The one I matched with on the Ancestry DNA. And so I am in contact with her still, and my other aunt, and my poppy. As a matter of fact, he was supposed to come in September and potentially play golf with you.
Really?
Yeah. So
I would love that.
And now it's September, so we need to reach out to him, because gosh, time flies. And my poppy, so my only grandparent still alive now, is 87, or is he 86? He's either 86 or 87. I think he's 87. I think he turned 87 in June. So I would like to spend as much time with him as I possibly can. I feel like I am a lot like him in the sense that he, I don't know, he's just a very ambitious, hardworking. Am I just patting myself on the back? Yeah, a
little bit. But no, as an outsider, I see it. I see a lot of you in that side of the family.
Yeah, I think so. And so I just want to get to know, and that's the closest thing to my dad, I feel like. So yeah, so I am, we all live in different areas of the states. So,
and I mean,
of the country, I should say.
Yeah, but if you think about it too, think about being a grandfather, and all of a sudden you hear that your child or your kid had a baby that he didn't know about, and you're 80 something years old.
Yeah, that's weird.
And, regardless of, whatever happens from here, he has been an amazing person to talk to connect with. He welcomed us and you with open arms and no question.
Yeah, that's
about
wild.
It. And this is a guy that's very successful and is has run successful businesses. He's very accomplished. He's with it. And it's nice that he's down in Florida because we did get to see him, but just opened his arms to you and the kids, and it's just been really amazing for just random.
Yeah, no, it actually is really amazing, and I think that it was his wife. Like, he's been remarried since my grandma, his wife of many, many years, passed away, and I never got to meet her. And as a matter of fact, when Henley was a baby, they thought she looked just like my grandma, his wife, who's passed. So I've never had a chance to meet her. But the new wife, who they like bonded over, both their spouses had Alzheimer's and they were both in homes and they were taking care of them, and they fell in love, taking care of their first loves, I guess. And so she had some experience with this, and I think she was really a voice of reason for him, I guess, or like to make it like so that it wasn't so uncomfortable. And she was very loving and welcoming. And unfortunately, she's had a lot of medical issues. And so I'm not sure. I haven't seen her in a long time. But
yeah, she played a pretty big role in the initial meetup.
I would say so. Yeah. So needless to say, if you're someone who has, been searching for your family and you don't know, or like you've discovered who they are and you're scared to reach out, I know that's obviously so scary because you just don't know how they're going to react. And you do hear a lot of times that they're not exactly excited to hear about long lost daughter or granddaughter that they never knew about.
Yeah. Well, the beauty is a lot of people have social media now, so a lot of times you can figure out who they are and kind of get a good profile.
Yeah, but you never know how they're going to react.
Exactly.
And I would like to just, I guess it's like, I feel like I would like to encourage you to just try, because you never know if you don't try, but, and it could end up in a good way. So to answer another question, a lot of you are asking, do we hear from Monet or Courtney from our season of Married at First Sight, or do I hear from them? And also, who do we stay in touch with from Married at First Sight? Do we still talk to cast members of Married at First Sight? Married at First Sight, well, we were on season 1, of course, you know, and Monet I haven't heard from. I don't even know if I have her number anymore. I haven't heard from Monet in so long.
No, and Vaughn, after the
that was Monet's husband.
After season 1, we really didn't have any contact. I think he kind of didn't want any association with Married at First Sight after that. And same thing with Jason and Courtney when they were married. We hung out with them a couple times because we were living in the city, and so were they. But then slowly kind of drifted apart. And then Courtney just had a second baby, I think.
Courtney's had another baby, but we also don't live near each other, so we don't really stay in touch. Also, she's not, married to her spouse from Married at First Sight anymore, and so we don't stay in touch as well. I feel like I speak to, honestly, Amani and Woody more than anyone these days.
We've done a couple specials.
We've done a couple of things with Amani and Woody, and
well, you got to know a lot of the cast through. Unfiltered. Yeah. Doing the after show.
Yeah. And so truly, we're friendly and talk to everyone on Married at First Sight, but we just don't live near anyone. We live in Sarasota. The show's never been in Sarasota or Florida, so we don't see them often. But whenever we do, I feel like we're, like Ashley and Anthony, we are, I follow Ashley.
Up with them,
and then Danielle and Bobby, we've never really hung out per se. Well, they've been in Sarasota. I mean, occasionally we've seen some people, but
I'm in a fantasy football league with 10 or 11 other Married at First Sight husbands from the past.
Yeah. So
I do talk to.
it's hard after you have kids, and a lot of us have kids. It's like, you can't just like pick up and go hang out. But I think it would be amazing. And I've tried telling the producers and the network executives over at Lifetime that we should have a show with all of us, with our children, just kind of like
competition show.
Not a competition show, just
Yes,
like a Where Are They Now?
Against families.
No, not
husband and wife versus husband and wife.
Okay.
I want a maths Olympics.
Okay, Doug.
And I will make up.
Did you just make this up right now? Because I've never heard you talk about this.
No, this is something that I've been thinking about for a while.
You're so funny.
Like a maths Olympic challenge.
Well, then I better start working out harder. Yeah. Because I don't like to lose.
I know. I think we would still have a shot.
Maybe. I don't know. These ones we're like 10 years older than like the youngest, because we're 10 years in now. So we're almost 10 years in. But
we're still nimble.
Is
hope nimble the right
that's
word?
right. I don't know either. Yeah. But any case.
Wait, before we move on, who did you meet that you were surprised about? Meaning, who in Married at First Sight that you met through Unfiltered were you surprised at how they were when you met them in person versus being on the show?
I feel like I can't say that because
look, it's not good or bad. You don't have to go there.
Because it was bad. And usually it is bad. It's like, you're like, oh, you're so excited to meet them. And because I watch Married at First Sight, and then I sit down and I like talk with them, and they like, it's interesting how quickly people become divas. Like when they think that they're like a celebrity because they're on TV or something. And it's like, wait a minute, girl. Like, we all married a stranger, and we're not celebrities. Like, we are Z-list if we are. And just like sometimes there's been a couple people who who are just so rude. Like, I remember one time I was interviewing people, like this one girl, and she came in and she like threw her mic and was like, I am done with this interview. And it was over like nothing. I don't even remember what it was over. This was a while ago. So, but I was like, that is not how I expected that to go. And then there has been other times where, the one person that I wasn't surprised was this guy, Brandon. He was like really scary. But he was also scary on TV. So like, that wasn't really surprising, but I was like, that was the only time we ever had security in the production office.
That was DC, right?
Oh golly, I can't remember.
Washington, DC.
I think so. I never remember what city they're from because there's so many of them. Yeah. But he was genuinely like kind of scary. But I don't know. Like mostly it's like women who end up being so snotty and just like not like they come off as really sweet and nice, like, or just like normal anyways on TV, and then you meet them and they're just like, I don't know. They just like expect like
carry
special,
themselves differently.
Yeah, they expect like special treatment kind of, and they don't ask them a certain question because they're not going to answer it, and they're sick of this filming and da-da-da. And I'm like, I'm just the host. I don't know what to say.
Which is so different because being season one, we didn't have a show to look at to say, okay, this is what they're doing. This is how it's supposed to go. But I genuinely feel like we never gave the producers or camera people a hard time.
Well,
I don't think we ever got like super like diva and ordering people around. There were times where I needed a coffee before we could start filming in the morning.
Because you're a caffeine addict.
Yeah, but I think that we got along with everybody.
Yeah, I think that...
and there was nothing off limits. Like, we didn't say no to really any topics, I don't think.
I think when you're really comfortable with yourself and you're just being yourself on camera and off camera, it's a lot easier. And I don't know why we do that so easily and how that's so easy for us, but it's very difficult for some people to be the same on camera and off. And I've like witnessed it over and over and over again. And it's like, I don't know why, because it's just so easy. Like, I guess that's like, I really enjoy the fact that I'm literally like braless right now in like a shirt with like sweatpants on, and that's how I show up to podcast, because then when you see me braless with a sweatshirt on outside, and I'm like, oh crap, like, because sometimes I'll go someplace and I think that I don't know anyone, I just want to bop in and bop out, but of course people know me.
That's
and so
when you get noticed.
Yeah, but the greatest thing about the way that, and like what I would say to anyone who's about to go on television or be on camera is truly just be yourself, because it is so freeing. Because, like you listening right now, you know that I'm braless and sweatpants half the time. My hair is greasy, pulled
You
back.
don't have to put on a show all the time
And so
for
then when you
people.
see me out in public, you're like, oh, yep, that's what she looks like. Oh, yep, that's what I see. Like it's so
Well,
instead
it wasn't
of
like that for you in the beginning, though.
no, it wasn't. I did learn to become more like that over time, but I was always truly myself on camera and off camera. And what you realize is that a lot of people aren't. And it's not because they don't want to be, it's because they just don't know how to be. It's very, you do feel a little vulnerable, I think, on camera.
Yeah, the difference, though, is we were part of season 1 and then Married at First Sight the first year, part 1, Married at First Sight the first year, part 2. Then we had Jamie and Doug plus 1.
Yeah, we've had a lot of TV
couples,
shows and
like,
spin-offs. Yeah.
It wasn't just like one season and then that's it.
That's true. But, and also I have to say, I have to give credit to The Bachelor because I was not at all myself on The Bachelor. I pretended to be, I don't know, something that someone would like. At least when it came to Ben, like I like just really didn't ever tell him anything real about me. And I think that was so, like every time I was around him, I was scared he was going to ask about something, or even the girls. No one really knew that I was, my mom was a drug addict. I didn't know my dad. I lived in a trailer park. I had custody of my siblings. And I was like terrified to let anybody know, even though the producers knew. And I think that was the biggest fear, is that they knew. So I'm like, oh God, when are they going to out me basically? And that kind of anxiety is debilitating. And it took the show actually airing and because then they were at my trailer. So of course my story was out there, and it took I'll never forget, on the subway, I was on the subway, and cause I moved to Manhattan soon after that. And I was on the subway going downtown on the A train, and this girl came up to me, and she must've been a teenager, and she tapped me on the shoulder, and she said, are you Jamie Otis? And I was like, yeah. It was so weird because this was the first time people would recognize me, I guess, in public. But she said, oh, I saw you on The Bachelor. And she basically said that she has a similar, something of a similar upbringing, and that I inspired her to be a nurse. I am not even kidding you. And wow. I was like, my jaw was to the floor. I was like, what? I felt you, what?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, so nice to meet you. I didn't even know what to say, but it was that was the moment that I realized, oh my gosh, there are other people out there who have the same story as you that need to know that they can break out of that circumstance. They don't have to be a product of their environment. They don't have to be a victim of their circumstances. And and it just kind of fueled a fire in me also to just, it's freeing to just be who you really are. Who cares what your skeletons are? You think that they're so bad, but when you finally let them out, you realize, oh, this isn't so bad. And actually, I'm not the only one going through this, and other people could use some support too. So I feel like you probably realize that now from
100%, 100%.
Because you kept that skeleton in your closet for such a long time with the drug addiction.
I would even hide from strangers who weren't even prying or knowing or probably even would care. You know, it would just be like, why don't you drink? I'm like, oh, I just haven't drank in a while. That's all. Yeah.
I understand you don't want to share. That's also going kind of deep, but it's just got to be freeing. Isn't it just so freeing to just let it out there? Who cares?
It doesn't feel like you're hiding behind something all the time, where it's because when you're hiding, you have that feeling of being caught. Yeah. Always, whether it's a big deal or it's not.
So then you feel guilty all the time, but guilty for what? What are you really guilty for? For your truth? That's awful. Yep. Moving on, I want to get to more questions because I feel like we're chit-chatting too much. So let's see. 2 questions. This is from Mary Ann O. And she says 2 questions. 1, what coping skills do you find helpful for anxiety? And number 2, is there anything you wish you would have done before having kids? I would say coping mechanisms for anxiety, meditation, praying, therapy, breathing, that's a whole topic in and of itself, I think, because anxiety is something I've struggled with a lot. That, and not so much a coping mechanism, but something that genuinely has helped my anxiety is to decrease the caffeine. And no one wants to hear that because we all love our coffee, and I get that. But I'm telling you,
it's true for you though.
It is true. And it's not like that for everyone. Doug drinks a ton of caffeine and isn't overly anxious. I don't even know how. Oh my gosh, if I drank your caffeine, I'd be
I sip throughout the day. And I haven't really drank a lot of coffee.
You drink a lot of coffee, Doug, in comparison
Yeah, I guess
to
I
everyone
do.
else. Yeah, he really does. He drinks. Tell him what your order is. Yes.
So for at Starbucks, I'll get a Trenta cold brew,
Which is the largest size, by the
with
way.
no ice and a shot of espresso in it.
So that's like tar mixed with some tar, and then he drinks that.
Motor oil.
Yeah. And you're telling
But
me
that will last me 2 to 3 days.
no, it will not.
2 days it'll last me.
Maybe.
I never finish a full Trenta.
But still,
I always have some left
that's
over.
like
but it is
a
a lot.
lot.
Yeah.
And you're not anxious, which is interesting.
No.
He's the least anxious person I've ever met in my life, which is probably why we work out, because I'm like, like always like hinged and like anxious about everything. Although I'm going to put that, like, I'm not putting that into the universe. I'm taking
you're
that back.
fine.
I'm way calmer now than I used to be. But I would say if you're drinking coffee, Marianne, try to reduce that a little bit. That is probably the single thing that has been so effective. That and meditating has been so helpful as well.
Yeah, you do a lot of meditating at night.
I do.
You play, you were playing the Bible for there for a while going to bed.
Yeah, I like to
and
listen to meditation apps, the Bible, audiobooks sometimes, before bed, playing games on my phone like a real nerd. Okay, so is there anything you wish you would have done before having kids? Honestly, nothing. Do you have anything you wish you would have done before kids?
I think we did a lot of what I wanted to get done before kids.
He had a pre-baby bucket list.
Yeah,
so we went to South Africa. We went
There were a
swimming
few things that we didn't do, but those things so for anybody that hasn't watched us, Jamie wanted kids, and I had a pre-baby bucket list of things that I wanted to do before kids, which included going to South Africa to swim with a great white shark, go on a safari. I wanted to live with an indigenous tribe for 2 weeks to just see about surviving and living in a hut. We didn't do that.
I mean, how could we?
Yeah.
Like, how do you just like leave life and go? I mean, I would still do that. I think that sounds amazing. But like, how do you go about doing something like that? Maybe if we're like missionaries one day, we could live with like an indigenous tribe as missionaries. Before we continue going on,
there was go on a ghost hunt.
Oh gosh, he wants
which
to
we
continue.
did.
He wants to continue to tell you about his pre-baby bucket list.
Yeah, so we did the skydiving. Then we went on a ghost hunt with all equipment. So it was like a legit ghost hunt. Did we do anything else?
Oh my goodness, Doug, we did so many things.
I think that was.
Did you say the safari?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we did that.
Yeah. So he had a lot of things on his pre-baby bucket list. I can't say that. And then for me, I was like, you can bring a baby to do anything. Like, truly, like you can, like having a baby doesn't stop your life. Like you can still live life. And I guess I thought like that because my mom had so many kids, but like, did she live really? I'm like, we didn't really do a whole lot, but I'm like, but my mom still lived her life.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I have like neglect issues. So I don't know why that's my philosophy, but anyways,
Let's just pause right there because I want to talk about a brand new take on toothpaste called No BS toothpaste.
What do you mean a new take on toothpaste?
So No BS toothpaste is a fluoride-free dehydrated tablet that you put in your mouth, you chew a couple times, and then you brush normally.
So this was formulated by a dentist to provide a minimalist toothpaste without sacrificing on efficacy. Only 13 super clean ingredients and no BS. Get it? See what I did there?
Good for you.
But no sulfates, no parabens, no microplastics. And because it's made without water, it eliminates the need for a lot of the preservatives found in traditional toothpaste.
And unlike most fluoride-free brands, No BS is made with the safest remineralizing agent, nanohydroxyapatite, which is a lot to say, but it's not only proven to be as effective as fluoride, but it makes it the safest choice for mothers and mothers-to-be and breastfeeding mothers and kids.
So plus the tablets are pre-dosed, so there's no worrying about using too much or too little. It comes in a glass jar, so there's no mess, no crinkly tube, and no getting your toothpaste confiscated at the airport or having it explode all over your clothes and your luggage.
Definitely happens. So to enjoy 15% off your first month's supply of No BS toothpaste, go to betterbiome.com. That's BetterBiome.com betterbiome.com and use the code HMCP at checkout for 15% off.
That's betterbiome.com and use the code HMCP at checkout for 15% off a 1-month supply.
Let's get back to it.
The next thing is Ellen Holbrook said, my question is, how do you find the time to answer the little people like me? You have so many fans and you amaze me every day. Well, Ellen, it's not even a question, but I just wanted to let you know that I do see you. I am literally sitting here on my Instagram, and this is on Hot Marriage Cool Parents Fun, and just reading your questions and your comments, because I genuinely enjoy having you as like you listening, like as a community, like as like family, as like internet aunties for our kids. I mean, I've really felt so much love and support, and I know I say it all the time, but I really have, and I'm really thankful for it. And I want to be able to kind of connect with you on a deeper level. So, Ellen, I just want you to know, and I hope you're listening to this episode, because I just wanted to give you a shout out and say hi, because no one's the little people. I mean, we're all just people looking for love and connection and friendship and, respect and like a laugh here and there. We're all just looking for the same thing in life. And so
one of the coolest parts about the way that we met and got married is people have known us since the day that we got married. Yeah. And they've been able to follow our journey. So when we say we have a community or girlfriends, as Jamie said.
You're my girlfriend.
That is, I feel like that sort of connection is kind of rare. I don't know of any other people that I've watched on TV where you've watched when they met and then we're able to watch their family grow. We had 2 babies on TV. Yeah. And kind of go through there, and people have stuck with us. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for sticking with us and supporting our family and cheering, like rooting on for our family. Salem Squares Secrets. She has asked me this. That is true several times. I've seen it I put out questions on Instagram, and she always asks me this, but it's a loaded answer. So I've never it's not as easy to just pop it on an Instagram story. But okay. So she says, I've been dying to know the answer to this question. A while back, I saw you say somewhere that if you and Doug wouldn't have made it if you didn't have kids. Why? You guys are soulmates. Kids or no kids. ... Yes. So the truth of the matter for this is that I can answer this because I know exactly what she's talking about because it was on my end. So
yeah, I do too. You
do?
What?
Yeah. So when I was like 7 months pregnant with Henley, is when I first discovered his Suboxone wrapper, which was, the medication that he was hiding from me and flushing it down the toilet. And he didn't have a job. I had 4 jobs at the time. We had just moved into a new house. We were fighting a lot. And, when I went upstairs, I remember I came home, and if you go back a few episodes, you could find this episode, the whole story about when I was like 7 or 8 months pregnant with Henley. And I came home from Manhattan. I was hosting a show called The Little Things. And I walked up, upstairs. Doug was out like cleaning the pool, which he would do for like hours on end. I swear. I mean, he didn't have a job. So, he was just keeping himself busy. And, but sometimes I would come home and you were playing the video game, and you were just playing the video game all the time. And I'm like, Doug, I'm working 4 effing jobs. Why are you playing a video game? And, and he's like, oh, yeah, I'm trying. And of course you were in a depression. And of course I didn't necessarily see that. And I was so focused on this baby in my belly. I mean, first of all, we lost our first baby. So I'm just mostly focused on making sure we can keep this second baby. And
that was scary all the way up until the 3rd trimester, really.
I mean, for me, it was scary until I held that baby in my arms, and the same thing happened with Hendrix. I don't know why, but and I don't like to say it while I'm pregnant that I'm scared, because I don't want to put that out in the universe. But of course I am. I mean, you just never know. But anyways, I walked upstairs. I see this wrapper in the toilet with the lid down, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this? And I Google it because I didn't know what Suboxone was. And I just instantly started bawling because I was like, oh my gosh, he's a drug addict. It's all making sense. That's why he was in all this debt, and we had to live with his parents, and he has no job, and I'm working all these jobs, and he's at home playing video games. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's a drug addict. And I remember just getting into the shower and just bawling because I have Henley in my belly. Oh my gosh, not going to cry, but, and I'm just thinking to myself, this is exactly what I never wanted. And now all his odd behavior is making sense to me because he would do, I mean, you would be at work. I mean, you would leave at like 8 o'clock in the morning and not come home sometimes till 10 o'clock at night. And I'm like, what the F are you doing? And you're like, oh, I had to work late. And I'm like, really? From 8 to 10 p.m.? And I don't know, you just had a lot of odd behavior. And anyways, it just all kind of came, like, I was just like, I just, if we didn't have Henley at that moment, I don't think I would have just said goodbye. Like, I just can't, because it was just too much. And the one thing I never, ever, ever, ever wanted was to be married to someone who had a drug addiction. I never wanted that because obviously of what happened with my mom.
Yep.
Yeah. And so Henley probably, and I don't ever want to say that Henley saved our marriage. I don't ever want her to have that kind of pressure. Like, if God forbid there's something ever, it has nothing to do with our kids, like we are
but that was the film that was still holding us together.
It really was, the fact that we had a daughter. And then, to be very honest, we were like trying to get, I was trying to figure out, because he's then saying, I'm not a drug addict, this is the medication I'm on. And so then I went to his doctors with him to be like, this is prescribed. And his doctor looked at me like I had 10 heads, but I'm like, yeah, I'm super pregnant here. I want to know that my husband isn't an addict and isn't using this illegally. And, and I want to see change. Like, I want to know, I want him to have a job. I want, we got to have a better relationship than this. And this is a part that we've never talked about, really. We've never publicly talked about this part of our marriage. And even at the time we were filming Jamie and Doug +1, and I never shared it. And obviously Doug didn't either, because I wanted to protect Henley. I didn't want Henley to ever feel like she was the cause of a divorce. If it went that route, I didn't want her to feel like she was the only reason we were married, because I don't want her to have that kind of pressure on herself. I mean, but the truth of the matter is that it was pregnancy that really kept me like, okay, I mean, I'd want my kids to have a father. And then it was seeing you, Doug, as a father. And then slowly you've changed, over the years, and you're the most spectacular father. But it was seeing that helped me fall in love with you again, after going through that whole storm of, all these things you were hiding from me.
Yeah, that was probably the most depressed that I had been.
Yeah, that was a real hard time.
Since we were together.
So Salem, I forget, let me just pull Salem Square Secrets. That is the story behind that. And I know you've been wanting to know that for a long time, but that is like such a loaded answer that I couldn't just share it on an Instagram story. So I'm glad you reached out on Hot Marriage Cool Parents, and we were able to tell you through the podcast. We've actually never shared that so thoroughly before, because I just don't want my daughter to ever hear or think, I mean, if God forbid, I don't think anything's going to happen to us now. Now I feel like our marriage is strong enough and we're going to make it through. Whereas before, I didn't know. And I didn't want our daughter to ever come across anything that makes her think that she's either the reason we're together or we're not, because she's not responsible for that at all. Like, neither is our son.
I mean, if you think about it, that time was probably the most stressful, I would say. I mean, think about buying a house, not having a steady job, not having health insurance, getting ready to have a baby, fighting all the time, not being able to get on the same page about really anything, and trying to make it through that. And that was tough. And I've always wanted to be a father. I always wanted to be a dad. I never, ever wanted to give up on the marriage or the relationship. And I just feel like that sort of just that change happened because of the weight of what was happening.
Yeah.
And I knew deep inside that I needed to get out of this funk that I was in, stop feeling sorry for myself, and make a change and be someone that my kids could look up to. And that doesn't happen overnight, but, I finally did get a job, and the health insurance kicked in the night before we had Henley.
The day that we had Henley.
The day that we had Henley, that's when I got the health insurance.
That's like the day you started your new job.
That was day one of my new job.
Day one of his new job, and we're having a baby.
And it was during the solar eclipse too.
Yeah, that was such a time that sometime I guess we could go back and talk about. But we're past that time now. And so that was a really, really hard part of our marriage though. So Tagurit 1123 said, will you adopt a child since you aren't conceiving? And
great question.
That's a great question. And, I feel like we've kind of already talked about it, but basically, as a matter of fact, we had an opportunity. Well, at least a little girl was needing to be adopted. A baby girl was needing to be adopted. And, a friend reached out and said, hey, Jamie, this little girl, her mom, unfortunately, suddenly died. The mom was a drug addict and unfortunately OD'd. And the dad didn't even know about the little girl and like the baby was 3 months old. I don't know why I'm saying little girl, it was a baby.
Yeah.
And just didn't want anything to do with it. It was going to be a closed adoption and it was just going to be through lawyers, not like in an agency or anything. So it was probably one of those, like if we were to adopt, like that would have been an amazing opportunity to adopt. And of course I hung up with her and immediately called Doug and I was like, Doug, we have everything. Let's do it. But Doug is just, why don't you say? I mean, I feel like I always talk Doug is not interested in adopting right now. And I get that. I mean,
no.
and I also will never pressure you to adopt. And, I wouldn't want that for the child. I wouldn't want that for you. That wouldn't be the right answer. You have to have two people who are 100% committed for adoption if you're going to adopt.
Yeah. And, I think that, for us, we're still trying. And I would consider adoption maybe a little bit later, like when we stopped having kids, and just I think
what if I can't get pregnant?
What I'm saying is I think the impact that it would have on us, where we have a lot going on, but we're still overwhelmed with everything that's going on. To bring in a child to the house, just when you're not even thinking about it, I feel is a reckless decision. And if you have two people that are 100% dead set on adopting, I feel like that child is better off with two people that are 100% on board looking to adopt somebody.
No, I absolutely agree. And you also said things like you're scared you can't love this child as much as you love your biological child, which, I get kind of, except I'm like, I could, but that doesn't mean, but I understand that. I really do. I mean, I think that for us, if we were to adopt, I've always wanted to foster first anyways. And I've always wanted to go back to mission work and be at an orphanage. I did that when I was in nursing school. And I feel like for us, it would be maybe you would be in love with the child first, and then then there's no hesitation. And so, it's not like we necessarily have to adopt a baby. We could even adopt a child that we just connect with, but we're not there yet because we're both not on that page.
And it's a lot for Henley and Hendrix too.
Yeah, I know you talk about that a lot too. But, so moving on, because this episode, because it's, we've been talking about this a lot, but, because a lot of people are asking about my recent fertility appointment and what the doctor said. And, so basically,
I don't know if I fully heard yet, right?
Well, yeah, you were sitting here. I had this
right.
I had a telehealth appointment with this high risk maternal fetal medicine doctor, and he reviewed all of my labs. And honestly, it was an interesting call because one thing that he said a little differently than our the doctor who's endocrinologist or whatever, the guy who's the IVF doctor, the fertility doctor. The one thing that his name is Dr. Duncan, and he was like, listen, if you were to do IVF, I want you to know that that involves a slew of risks. There are more loss associated with IVF. There are more complications. And he was like, I don't just think that you should just jump to that. And what's interesting is that our fertility doctor, it's not like he told us to jump to that, but he said, you know, that with my age and with the fact that I have hypothyroidism and just all these, I have MTFHR or MTHFR. I have all these different complications and like one blocked fallopian tube. And so he was like, you know, the thing with IVF is that we know that we could get a good egg and we could, you know, we could test it and all these things. And so I feel like I've gotten, and I even said this to Dr. Duncan, the maternal fetal medicine high risk doctor. I was like, I feel like I'm getting like kind of mixed reviews here because he was like, maybe IVF is the best way to go considering it's been this long and you have all these strikes against you. And then the Dr. Duncan, the other doctor, was like, well, there are a lot of risks with that. And I think that, and so the one thing that Dr. Duncan, and if you're listening, and if you can follow me, because I feel like there's a lot, I can barely follow it myself. But the one thing that I found out from my most recent doctor's appointment is that my hypothyroidism is, well, I mean, I've always known that hypothyroidism is linked to infertility and it's linked to losses. So you have to make sure. That. Oh, yeah. And the MTHFR, of course, is as well. And I didn't realize I had that. So I mean, I've gotten some insight into my body. And the one thing is that he said that my thyroid levels it's not severe enough that most doctors would even pay attention to my lab results. But he was like, I think you need to increase your thyroid medication because my thyroid is essentially working like really, really hard to like keep up to what like it's doing.
Overtime.
Yeah. And he thinks that because my thyroid's working so hard at that it's causing this secondary infertility and could also cause, you know, of course, if we got pregnant, it could cause a loss because my body wouldn't be able to withstand it or whatever. And so anyways, he ordered more thyroid medication for me and he's going to check. He wanted to know about some sort of carrier type for you. I literally took notes because this guy was just going on and on and on and on about all these things. And I'm like, whoa, slow down. I don't even, you know, when you're dealing with trying to conceive and infertility issues and you see doctor after doctor and you have all these different labs, it is very overwhelming. And it's, oh man, it's like a little debilitating. And just, you know, I am forever so thankful that I have Henley and Hendrix because if God forbid, you know, I mean, I feel so incredibly blessed and thankful because I have been a mom who left a hospital without my baby and had no baby to go home to. Yeah. And that's excruciating. And so for me going through this trying to conceive thing and this infertility and infertility doctors and high risk OBs and all this, like all these different labs and all this information coming at me, like I could imagine that if I didn't have Henley or Hendrix, I would probably just be crying every single night, like feeling like kind of like a failure. Like how come I can't just have a baby? And why is this so complicated when like everybody else just gets pregnant and
the rest of your family is so fertile? Yeah.
Like I could see that. And so someone said to me the other day on Instagram as well, they said, it seems like you're handling this trying to conceive things so easily. And that, you know, and the fact that you're like, having this struggle.
So easy.
Well, just the fact that, I mean, and I could see what she's saying because I feel like I have like a like hope and a little tiny bit of peace because I do have two beautiful, healthy children. Yeah. And so, you know, but like, I know that if I didn't have them, I would be a wreck, an absolutely devastated wreck, just hearing all this information. And then one doctor says one thing and another, and it's not like they're saying complete opposite things, but it's just kind of, I mean, the truth of the matter is.
I left the first appointment though, thinking like, man, he was really pushing for IVF.
But he did it because he had his reasons. I mean, I am like considered advanced maternal age or geriatric pregnancy. So I have a low to normal AMH. So my egg count isn't, you know, high. And there's a lot of reasons why he was pushing for it because because that doesn't even happen like, you know, in a month. It still takes time. And so, and I'm 37 going to be 38. And so I can see why he's doing that. But then this OB, this high risk OB was like, I don't think that you have to do that. And he did give me hope that he did say that he thinks that I'll be able to conceive. And he's like, you've done it before twice. Literally, it's like just figuring out my body and getting my body and like doing it that right time frame. You got to do it in the right time frame. And so,
and I mean, you've been well aware of your body for a while. I mean, you've had testing done, you've had blood work done, and this came up before we got pregnant with both Henley and Hendrix, where we got tested. For you, it was as soon as you switched to more plant-based and like less gluten and less dairy, it almost seemed like your body sort of just I don't want to call it just like a detox, but it seemed to get your body to the right place.
Which tells me that I should probably eat like that all the time. And I don't know why I'm rebelling.
But you've also been
that.
working out and you've been eating great.
Yeah. I don't know. So needless to say, the doctor is going to increase my thyroid medication. And I feel like maybe with the increase, I mean, I just have a little bit more hope that we will be able to have a baby naturally because he gave me that hope. He was like, well, this isn't severe enough that most doctors probably wouldn't look at it, but he's a maternal fetal medicine high risk doctor. And so he sees these labs all the time. And he was like, I think this thyroid medication needs to increase a little bit. And then your body, like you might have a better chance essentially. Yeah. And then there's also a couple other things that we're going to have done, like your genetic carrier type and my genetic carrier screening. And he wants us to go to a genetic, I forget what they're called.
Geneticist.
Yes, I think so. I don't know. They actually called and I missed their phone call.
Because I know last time I have a biotin deficiency.
Biotinidase deficiency. And I have that as well. But he said that has something to do with this. Right. And so I feel like that is a loaded answer for you. I don't even know if you can follow it. I can barely follow it. Those of you listening, I don't know if that's but that was basically the result of this last telemedicine conversation that I had with, his name is Dr. Duncan, and he was great. I really enjoyed talking with him. I really enjoy our fertility doctor as well. I think that they're both very, very smart. They both want the best for us.
The fertility guy said, though, there was a chance to conceive naturally.
Yeah, he did say that actually too, but he just thinks that if we're really wanting to have a baby, then we might just want to go the IVF route because even that takes time. And also the older I am, I have to carry the baby for 9 months and whatnot. And so I can see, I don't know. And so this is where you just got to pray and leave it in God's hand. And truly, if I didn't have my two beautiful, angelic, sweet souls here, then I'd probably
added pressure.
Oh, I would be like so depressed, I think, and so like mad at my body. Cause I remember I was like that with after I lost Johnathan, I just was so mad at my body and I was just so mad at myself. And I was like, what did I do wrong? And then after I had those other two losses before Hendrix, again, I was like, what is wrong with this body of mine? Like, why can't I just have a baby like a normal, like my sister-in-law was having each time when I was pregnant with Johnathan, she had Mason and she had him just absolutely fine. Yep. And then when I was pregnant with the last one that I lost, she had Zach and we were supposed to have lunch with them. And that day I found out I didn't have a baby in my belly and that it was just a bunch of cells that didn't grow correctly. And she found out that, she heard the heartbeat and all the things. Yeah. And I was like, well, that's awesome. And I just was so upset with myself, like that. Why can't I just function normally? And so, I guess I'm trying to say, a mindset of gratitude and being thankful. And truly, I know I'm blessed to have Henley and Hendrix. And so I'm just focused on that. But I also know deep in my heart that we have a miracle coming. I really believe that.
I feel it. I feel it too.
I really believe that. And I'm not going to give up on that miracle because I just know that in God's like perfect timing, it's coming. Yeah. But
I've never had baby fever, but I started to have baby fever.
I know it's always been me, but I think I want more kids than you. I'm like really.
Yeah. I want one more.
I would love two more.
I think we'll be blessed with one more.
We'll see what God has in store. But needless to say, that I hope that wasn't too confusing for you to listen to. If you're still here listening, shout out to you because I feel like I kind of butchered it. I'm also kind of confused myself, though. I don't know how best to explain it to you when I'm a little confused myself. But we're going to the genetic guy. The genetic doctor is the next thing that we're doing. And
Do I have to get a test?
Yeah. So you're gonna have your blood drawn, and I think maybe I have my blood drawn as well again. I was so confused at the end of this appointment, and it was via telemedicine or whatever. So it was on my computer. So it wasn't like I could that's always like an extra.
See, engage.
Yeah, that's like an extra layer of like miscommunication. I feel like because I don't want to
when you can't see somebody, you can't see their body language. You can't see what words they're stressing and how they're approaching it or how confident they are in what they're saying.
Yeah, and in English, I don't think is his first language, and so there was a little bit of he had an accent, and so I'm like, but I didn't want to constantly ask him to repeat himself, and so yeah, so we're gonna figure this out. Right. But needless to say, if you're trying to conceive, if you're on that journey, my heart goes out to you because it's a lot. It is an awful lot. And I just pray that, God's will is done in each of our lives and that we have some sticky baby dust given to us and that, what else can you pray for? So, and if you are someone who's not trying to conceive and you have, babies at home or grown children or whatever, hug them tight and just, of course, be so thankful for them because it isn't that easy for everyone.
There's so many stories too of people saying as soon as they stop trying, that's when they get pregnant.
Well, I'm not going to lie. For Hendrix, when it had been 18 months and 2 losses before we got pregnant with Hendrix, and we went to the fertility doctor, and it was there that we found out that we were pregnant with Hendrix. I kind of knew because I saw a faint line before, but I was like, I need a doctor to tell me because I just don't believe it unless it's a doctor. And so I was kind of hoping that when we kind of threw in the towel and went to go see the fertility doctor this time, that there'd be that line and it'd be the same thing. Like, oh, surprise, you're already pregnant. Yeah. But here we are. And that didn't happen. So guess it can't be the same story with each kid. Can't always be that easy. But anyways, so thank you so much. I hope that we answered I feel like we answered a few of your questions. I know there was more. We can never get to all of them, but we'll try to do this again. Let us know if you really love these Q&As because we could do more of them for sure. Yeah. That's the whole point of the podcast is truly to connect with you.
And we're planning on having some more, some guests to come on, some other family-made content creators, hopefully we'll get to talk to.
Yeah. And honestly, if there's anyone that you want to talk to, please just shoot me a DM or honestly on Hot Marriage Cool Parents is a great place. And, or even just on my Instagram, feel free. And we would love to just invite back on some guests that maybe you or someone that we haven't even had. We'll try to reach out to and chit chat with because I think that's the whole point of this is like having a community and we've really lacked that, I feel like, for quite some time. And so we're excited to have that back now.
But like we always say at the end, we love you. And thank you for being with us.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for sending in all your questions. And thank you for all your love and support, as always. And we want to love you and support you right back there. So if you need anything, of course, just shoot us over a message. And however we can help you, we will try.
Take care.
All right. Have a great week. We love you. Bye.
Bye.